Clarence Darnell didn't come looking for trouble. He came for steak. Every Friday. Same booth, same order, same quiet. That was his ritual. That was how he kept the noise of the world outside where it belonged. But one night, one quiet warning from a nervous young waiter changed everything. "They don't want you here tonight." 7 words. Spoken low, like a secret slipping through the cracks of a place that should have felt safe. Clarence had heard threats before. Overseas, in alleys, across fences with guns in hand. But this was different. This was home. What followed wasn't a fistfight. It wasn't about who yelled loudest. It was about a man's right to sit, eat, and exist without permission. And as eyes watched him from the shadows of a corner booth, Clarence made a decision. He wasn't moving. Not tonight. Not ever again. If stories like this hit you where it counts, quiet strength, standing your ground, give this video a like. Hit that subscribe button if you believe dignity shouldn't need defending. And share it with someone who needs a reminder that silence isn't the same as peace. The tires of Clarence Darnell's old Ford Ranger crunched over the gravel like they always did at 6 o'clock sharp. Same corner spot, same restaurant, same habit. He parked beneath the flickering street lamp outside Gene's Roadhouse Grill, the kind of place where time stuck to the floor and no one said much unless it needed saying. Inside, the air clung with mesquite smoke and memory. Tables packed with flannel and work boots. Contractors talked shop. Retired cops nodded at baseball scores. The kind of men who liked routine and silence over salad. Clarence nodded to no one. Just walked toward his booth, the one by the window. The one where he could see the lot and the door. Always both. His jeans were stiff from starch, boots polished to regulation dull, a burgundy flannel shirt buttoned high. And the cap, Army issued, worn without apology. Nobody questioned it. Nobody had to. He wore it like armor, like a man who'd earned the right to be seen. The menu sat untouched on the table, just like every other Friday. Clarence never needed it. Medium rare ribeye. House fries, collard greens, iced tea, 2 sugars, no lemon. It wasn't just a meal. It was a line in the sand. A ritual, because rituals mean something when everything else shifts around you. The usual waiter, an older guy named Randall, wasn't working. Instead, a younger man approached. Mid-20s. Pale, shark jaw. Name tag read E. Carver. He looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. But he walked up, notepad clutched like a lifeline, and said with effort, "Evening. I'll be taking care of you tonight, sir." Clarence looked up slowly. His tone was flat but clear. Medium rare ribeye, fries, greens, sweet tea, no lemon. The waiter blinked, scribbled it down, nodded fast. "Yes, sir." He turned back toward the kitchen. Clarence didn't watch him go. Didn't need to. He trusted patterns. And tonight, something about the pattern already felt off. 5 minutes passed. No drink, no bread, just noise. Country music, forks clinking. A pool ball breaking against felt from the bar and back. Clarence sat still, spine straight, gaze flicking between entrance and kitchen. That's when Carver returned, empty-handed. No tea, no food, just hesitation. He stood awkwardly beside the table, eyes twitching toward the kitchen. "Sir," he said, then lowered his voice. "Can I ask how long you're planning on staying tonight?" Clarence raised one brow, a slow surgical movement. "Long enough to eat," he said evenly. "Why?" The young man swallowed, licked his lips like the next words tasted bad. "They don't want you here tonight." Just like that. 7 words, soft, honest, but cold. Clarence didn't flinch. Not visibly. Just leaned back, arms folding. "Come again?" he said. Carver's eyes shifted left, toward the far corner booth. 4 men sat there. One bald with a jaw like granite. Another with a red goatee and a face you wouldn't trust with your tools. The other 2, camo caps, weathered hands, eyes already fixed on Clarence. It wasn't about dinner. It was a message. And Clarence had heard it loud and clear. He turned back to the waiter. You sure that was meant for me? Carver didn't blink. I don't joke with customers, he said. Clarence stared at him for a long second. No anger, no fear, just calculation. How long you been here? He asked. Week and a half, the kid answered. Clarence exhaled through his nose. And already you're bringing messages? Carver looked embarrassed. Not messages, just, I overheard something. Figured you'd want to know. Clarence nodded once. Not thanks, not yet, just acknowledgement. Sit, he said quietly. Carver hesitated, then dropped into the booth across from him, shoulders tense, like he knew this was dangerous. I'm not supposed to be off the floor, he muttered. Then talk fast, Clarence replied. What exactly did you hear? Carver twisted the edge of his notepad. Same four guys. Been coming in every Friday. Always take that booth. Last week, they left a note for management. Said certain types make the place feel tense. Clarence leaned in. Certain types? Carver gave a nod. Said, and I quote, the man with the flannel and the vet cap who always sits by the window. That was all it took. The air between them felt like it dropped 10 degrees. Clarence didn't blink. Didn't look at the booth. He didn't need to. And management? He asked. Gene's okay with that? Carver shook his head. Gene's mostly retired. His son, Travis, runs it now. Keeps quiet. But I know at least one of those guys. Mercer. Logan Mercer. We went to school together. He's always been like that. Got money. Got friends. Trouble slid off him like rain. Clarence studied him. So, why tell me? The kid looked him dead in the eye. Because I know what happens when people ignore this kind of talk. It doesn't go away. It gets louder. And I figured maybe you want to hear it before it gets real loud. Clarence gave a small nod, the kind that said respect. Behind him, the restaurant moved on. Plates clinked. Laughter rose from a booth near the kitchen. Nothing felt out of place. But Clarence had been a soldier long enough to feel what couldn't be seen. The tension wasn't coming. It was already here, in the glances, the posture, the air. You afraid of him? Clarence asked. Carver hesitated. Not of him, he said. Of what happens when no one says anything? Of being the only one who does. Clarence looked toward the kitchen. You say he runs a crew? Carver nodded. Roofing, contracting, tips big, brings business. Makes noise when he doesn't like the crowd. Clarence's jaw flexed slightly. You think this ends with me leaving my stake? Carver gave a small shake of his head. No, I think it ends with someone bleeding if people don't speak up. Clarence didn't look away from him. You did the right thing, he said simply. But you better know what comes next. Carver stood as the kitchen door flung open and a voice barked his name, clipped, commanding, irritated. He gave Clarence one last glance, then disappeared. Clarence didn't move. Didn't touch the menu. Just sat there, quiet, composed, watchful. Like a man trained to see the storm 5 minutes before the first drop hits. Across the restaurant, the corner booth had shifted. The bald man leaned in closer. The one with the goatee gave a crook smile, and Clarence knew the moment was coming. He didn't know how, but he felt it. Some things you just know in your bones. The chair opposite him scraped across the floor. A body slid into it slow, intentional. Clarence didn't look right away. He already knew. The voice confirmed it. Still like that window seat, huh? Logan Mercer. Same grin. Same arrogance. Different war. A war with no medals, just control. Clarence looked up. Didn't realize we were friends. Logan chuckled. We ain't. Just figured, since we're both regulars, I'd say hi. Clarence didn't smile. Hi. Logan leaned back. This place has got a vibe, you know, certain energy. Been that way a long time. Folks feel safe here, comfortable. Some changes just don't sit well. Clarence nodded slowly. Comfort, huh? Logan tapped the table. Don't get me wrong, you've earned your stripes. But this ain't a war zone. It's a steakhouse. Some people see patterns They speak up. Just the way it works. Clarence's eyes narrowed. Speak up to who? Management? Or folks like you who think steak tastes better when it's segregated? Logan's grin faded slightly. Ain't about race. It's about feel, atmosphere. Some folks walk in and suddenly nobody's talking. That's not good for business. Clarence didn't blink. Maybe the silence says more about the folks who stop talking than the ones they're staring at. Logan folded his arms. You're not wanted here. Clarence's voice dropped to a near whisper. I've been in places where I wasn't wanted. Wore this cap there too. Didn't leave those places either. Logan leaned in. You think this is bravery? Sitting here like you're proving a point? You're just being stubborn. Clarence smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I'm being something you'll never be. Unshaken. Clarence didn't flinch when Logan stood. Didn't blink when he walked away with that smirk that always came with men who thought history bent in their favor. He just sat still, fingers resting on the edge of the table like they had purpose. But inside, he was scanning, cataloging, preparing the way men do when they know something's coming. The booth in the corner looked different now. No longer just a table, it was a threat with a receipt. 4 men, same posture, same eyes. But Logan was the center, the mouth. The one who looked people in the face and dared them to pretend he wasn't the one steering the room. Clarence had seen men like that in sandstorms and boardrooms. Their cologne changed. Their intent didn't. From the bar, the bartender watched too long. A second too long, eyes sliding off Logan's group and landing on Clarence. Like he was the fire hazard, the threat. Clarence knew that look. Had earned that look from worse men in better uniforms. It didn't bother him. It just confirmed something he'd already suspected. Even the busboy sweeping him back slowed his rhythm. Subtle, but Clarence saw it. The rhythm of the room had shifted. Air thicker, talk quieter. That wasn't fear. That was anticipation. The kind that came before a blow. Clarence hadn't come here for a fight, but he'd come prepared to stay. He leaned back, took a sip of his now lukewarm tea, then set the glass down without sound. The silence between his heartbeat and the ambient noise narrowed. That's when he heard it. The shuffle of boots approaching. Steady, calculated, like a test of steps. He didn't look. Not right away. The body hit the booth across from him. Same seat Logan had taken. But it wasn't Logan. This one was younger, stockier, military haircut grown out just enough to look deliberate. He leaned forward, voice low. You from 1st Cavalry? Clarence didn't answer immediately. Just stared. Saw your patch on the side of your cap. The man added. I was 3rd Battalion. Kandahar, summer of '09. Clarence's eyes narrowed. And? The man swallowed. Just saying, I recognize soldiers. And what's happening here? It ain't right. Clarence raised one eyebrow. You come to tell me that? Or did Logan send you over to see if I'd flinch? The man looked down. No, sir. He doesn't know I'm here. Just wanted to say I see it. I don't like it. But I got bills. Clarence nodded once. Don't we all? The man stood again quickly. Just watch your back. He don't let things go easy. Clarence didn't respond. Didn't watch him walk away. Just memorized his voice, his posture, the guilt in his jaw. That kind of guilt? It came with costs. Either way, the kid had just painted a target on his own back. The next 10 minutes crawled. Clarence could feel the stares, real or imagined. He'd been in combat zones less tense than this Georgia steakhouse. Finally, a plate arrived. Not from Carver. From someone new, young, goatee, dead eyes. Slapped the steak down like it owed him something. Medium rare, he muttered, then vanished. Clarence looked at the plate. The greens were off. Too pale. Overcooked. Fries under season. No love. Just a warning with seasoning. He took a bite anyway, not because he was hungry, because that's what Defiance tasted like tonight. One bite. Then another. Not fast, just deliberate. He wasn't leaving this table unfinished. Logan stood again, walked toward the bar. whispered something to Travis. The manager stiffened, eyes bouncing between Logan and Clarence like a man trying to decide between fire and flood. Clarence watched it all. He saw the choice being made before Travis even opened his mouth. Travis made his way over slow, not casual, not confident, just slow enough to appear in control. "Mr. Darnell," he said, voice oiled but thin, "just checking in. Everything okay with the meal?" Clarence didn't look up. "Steak's fine. Greens are tired. Fries forgot who they were supposed to be." Travis chuckled nervously. "I'll make sure that's noted," he said. Clarence finally looked up. "You always let customers threaten your staff." Travis blinked. "I'm sorry." Clarence leaned in slightly. "You heard me." Travis glanced toward the kitchen. "This is a family place, sir. We don't take sides. We just serve good food." Clarence shook his head. "You cannot take sides," he said. "Silence is a side." Travis opened his mouth, closed it. "If there's anything I can get you—" "Yeah," Clarence interrupted. "You can let me eat in peace and let that kid who warned me keep his job." Travis's smile broke, just slightly. "We'll see what we can do," he muttered. He walked away faster than he'd arrived. Clarence watched him go, then looked back at the corner booth. Logan was watching, chewing a toothpick, like a man waiting for someone to fold. Clarence didn't fold, never had. He picked up his fork again. Bite, chew, swallow, every motion a declaration. The front door opened. A black man stepped in, mid-30s, alone, confident, head up, took one look at the booths and made his way to the bar. The moment he sat, Clarence felt it. The energy shifted again, quieter, tighter. Logan glanced. One of his boys leaned in. A whisper. A laugh. Clarence watched the man at the bar notice. The hesitation. The quick look over his shoulder. The pause before ordering. It wasn't loud. It wasn't overt. But it was there. Clarence had seen this dance before. Make someone feel out of place without ever touching them. Call it Southern politeness. Call it poison with a smile. The bartender took the man's order, leaned in close, said something. The man nodded, then stood. Left a tip anyway. Walked out slow, but it wasn't a casual stroll. It was retreat. Dignified, but retreat. Clarence watched the door shut behind him, then looked back toward the booth. The laughter wasn't hidden anymore. Clarence pushed his plate back, half finished, appetite gone. That wasn't food anymore. It was principle. He wiped his mouth, stood up slowly, and walked toward the kitchen. Not to leave. Not to escape, but to find Carver. To let the kid know he wasn't alone. Some messages deserved an answer. He found him near the back hallway, stacking clean menus like it gave him purpose. Clarence spoke low. "You all right?" Carver jumped, then nodded. "I'm still breathing." Clarence nodded back. "They mess with you?" Carver hesitated. "Not yet. But it's coming." Clarence leaned against the wall. "Then let's be ready." Carver looked confused. "Ready for what?" Clarence didn't answer immediately. Just said, "For what happens when men like that get told no?" He patted him once on the shoulder, then turned. "And tell Travis, if that steak's on the house, he better know it's not a gift. It's an apology." Clarence walked back through the dining room. The eyes followed again, but now they weren't just watching. They were measuring, weighing. Would he speak? Would he leave? Would he sit? Clarence returned to his booth. Didn't sit. Not right away. Just stood beside it, gaze moving across the room. Then, finally loud enough to carry, "You picked the wrong old man." The words hung there like smoke. No yelling, no anger, just gravity, and everyone in the room felt it. Logan stood, mouth open, but no words came out. Travis peeked from the kitchen door, face pale. The bartender froze mid-pour. The spell broke. Just for a second, but it was enough. Clarence sat back down. Not to finish his steak, but to finish what he started. And for the first time since walking in, the corner booth was quiet. The hum of the restaurant hadn't changed, but something under it had. It was in the pauses between clinks, in the sidelong glances, in the way the air felt like it was holding its breath. Clarence didn't eat, didn't sip. He sat still, hands folded, cap angled just enough to watch the room without turning his head. Logan Mercer moved differently now. Not loud, not smug, but measured, like a man adjusting strategy mid-battle. He approached with a posture meant to intimidate, chest forward, jaw set. But Clarence didn't rise, didn't brace, he didn't need to. Some men carried gravity without effort. Clarence was one of them. Logan slid into the booth across from him, uninvited but entitled. He leaned back like he'd earned the right. "You know," he started, "a man like you should understand chain of command. When it's time to stand down." Clarence didn't blink. "Chain of command only works when the orders make sense." Logan chuckled, but it wasn't a laugh. "You're a smart one." "That's the problem. Smart men think rules don't apply when they don't like him." Clarence let the silence grow teeth, then replied, "Nah, I just know the difference between rules and cowardice." That hit. Logan's smirk cracked just slightly. He leaned in, voice dropping. "Look, I don't hate you. I don't even know you. But this town, it's got a rhythm, a pace. People like routine. You shake that up, even a little, and suddenly everyone's uncomfortable." Clarence stared. "Good. Let him be uncomfortable. That's how you know they're waking up." Logan scoffed. "This ain't some civil rights movie, old man. It's a restaurant." Clarence's tone didn't change. "Where people come to eat, not to pass judgment or take notes on who sits where. You don't like who's at the next table. Order takeout." Logan's jaw twitched. "You think you're better than everyone here?" Clarence finally leaned in, slow and deliberate. "No, I just think I've earned the right to sit down and eat without being told I'm a problem." Logan shifted. "You didn't earn nothing from me." Clarence shrugged. "Didn't ask you for anything." A pause. Logan studied him. Clarence stared back like he had all day. Then Logan said, "This ain't about steak. It's about space. Presence. You take up space some folks don't think you deserve." Clarence's voice dropped an octave. "And you think that space belongs to you?" Logan nodded once. "I built in this town. Paid my dues. Know the right people. That counts for something." Clarence tilted his head. "I bled for this country. Woke up under mortar fire. Buried friends overseas. That counts too." Logan looked down, then up again. "You're not the only vet in this town." Clarence said nothing, just waited. Logan continued, "I served too. Army Reserve. Didn't see combat, but I signed the line." Clarence didn't laugh, but the silence carried weight. "You ever bury someone who called you brother on Tuesday and bled out in your lap on Thursday?" Logan looked away. "Didn't think so," Clarence said. "Not out of arrogance, out of clarity. There's a difference between uniforms and scars. One washes off. The other doesn't." Logan exhaled through his nose, slow, then asked, "Why'd you come here? This place? Every Friday? What are you looking for?" Clarence answered without blinking. "Peace, consistency, a meal I can count on, something no one can take." Logan shook his head. "You came to the wrong place for peace." Clarence leaned back, calm as ever. "Then maybe I brought it with me." They sat there, soldier and contractor, two men on opposite ends of the same country. Not shouting, not threatening, just drawing lines in silence. The restaurant didn't care. It kept moving. Orders shouted from the kitchen. Beer bottles popping. A birthday song off-key in the back corner. But something deeper had shifted. Clarence looked at Logan, voice steady. "You came back here for control. Not the food. Not the people. Just the comfort of running things without anyone pushing back." Logan smirked, but it didn't reach his eyes. "And you?" "You came here looking for a fight." Clarence shook his head. "No, I came for dinner." Logan scoffed. "Well, you got both." Clarence nodded slowly. "Funny thing about fights, they only happen when both sides swing. I've just been sitting." Logan's hand twitched. "Not toward violence, toward discomfort." like something in his gut itched at being seen. Clarence watched him closely, measured, waiting to see if the truth would land. Then Logan asked, quieter now, "You ever feel like you didn't belong somewhere? Like the air itself didn't want you?" Clarence didn't hesitate. "Plenty of times. But I stayed anyway. Because belonging ain't about permission. It's about presence." Logan looked away. For the first time all night, he seemed less sure. Like the armor didn't fit right anymore. Clarence stood slowly. Logan flinched, barely. "I ain't gonna put hands on you," Clarence said. "You ain't earned that kind of lesson." Logan looked up, confused. Clarence added, "Some beatings are physical. Others come when a man realizes he's become everything he swore he'd never be." Then he turned, walked toward the front. Behind him, Logan stayed seated. No comebacks, no smirks. Just stillness. Clarence passed by the bar. The bartender avoided his gaze. Travis stood near the register, watching everything unfold like a man realizing the house he inherited was already on fire. Clarence didn't stop. Just moved with purpose. Not out the door, but toward the back. Out back, under the rattle of the AC unit, the heat hit like breath from the earth. Clarence found a quiet spot near the dumpsters. Not because he needed air, but because he needed silence. He'd fought wars with less tension than the steakhouse. But this wasn't a war of bullets. It was one of principle, and he wasn't done fighting it yet. The alley behind Gene's Roadhouse Grill smelled like fryer oil, cigarette smoke, and cheap excuses. But Clarence stood in it like it was sacred ground. He wasn't hiding. He wasn't cooling off. He was waiting. The way men do when instinct says the real conversation doesn't happen in the light. The kitchen door creaked open behind him. Carver stepped out, hands in his apron pockets, eyes darting. He looked nervous, like he'd walked into something he wasn't supposed to witness. Clarence didn't turn, just said, "You ever notice how quiet it gets right before something bad happens?" Carver stopped walking. "Yeah," the kid said, "like the air's listening." Clarence nodded. "That's what this is." Carver moved beside him, not close, but close enough to stand together without words. For a moment, they said nothing. Then the back gate clanged open. Heavy boots, purposeful stride. Clarence didn't have to look. He already knew. Logan. He walked in like he owned the gravel. Like the back of a steakhouse was his courtroom. Two of his boys flanked him, but hung back, muscle without conviction. Clarence stepped forward, putting himself between Carver and the approaching threat. "Told you earlier," he said. "You picked the wrong man." Logan stopped. "You think this is noble? Standing out here like some folk hero?" Clarence shrugged. "Didn't come here to be anything but hungry." Logan stepped closer. "This town runs on loyalty, connections. You come in here, start stirring up drama. People remember that." Clarence smiled without warmth. "Good. Let 'em remember it. Maybe they'll finally ask why." Carver shifted behind him, but Clarence didn't move. His voice stayed calm. "You done sending notes through management? Or do you want to say it like a man?" Logan looked past Clarence at Carver. "You still hiding behind him?" Carver stepped forward before Clarence could stop him. "Nobody's hiding," he said, voice thin but steady. Logan chuckled. "You always were the sensitive type. Even back in school." Clarence's eyes narrowed. "You messing with this kid because you couldn't win a fight with someone your own size?" Logan's smile dropped. "You think you're protecting him, but all you're doing is dragging him down with you." Clarence's tone changed, deeper now. "No, what I'm doing is standing up, something this place hasn't seen in a while." Logan took another step. "You gonna swing on me now? In front of your little witness?" Clarence didn't flinch. "I don't need to hit you. You already know you're losing." For a second, nobody moved. Then Logan's boys shifted. One cracked his knuckles. The other watched the back door like he wanted out. Clarence noticed it all. That's what experience gives you. Eyes that read intention before it becomes action. He turned to Carver. "Go back inside. Now." Carver hesitated. "What about—" "Go." Clarence's voice left no room for question. Carver nodded, turned, and slipped through the kitchen door, the closing latch louder than it should have been. Logan took another breath. "You're going to get someone hurt with all this posturing." Clarence's voice came soft. "No, Logan, you are." Logan stepped forward fast, but Clarence didn't retreat. Didn't flinch. He just stood there, calm, solid, immovable. The way a wall stands in a flood. Logan's fist tightened. But something in Clarence's eyes stopped him. Something ancient. Not fear. Not threat. Just truth. The kind that said, "You don't win this." Logan finally looked away, spat on the gravel. "You think you're the good guy here?" Clarence shook his head. "No, I think I'm the man who didn't run," Logan scoffed. "You think that's strength? Staying in a place that don't want you?" Clarence's gaze didn't break. "It's not about the place. It's about the people who try to define it." Silence hung thick as the Georgia air. Logan took a half step back. "You're going to regret making me look weak." Clarence replied without pause. "You don't need help looking weak. You've been carrying that yourself for years." Logan's face twisted, but the punch never came. Cowards don't swing when someone's ready. Instead, he turned, walked back through the gate, his boys trailing like shadows. Clarence didn't move until the sound of their boots vanished around the side of the building. Then he exhaled, long and slow, like the tension had finally lifted, but only slightly. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The kitchen door creaked open again. Carver peeked out. "They gone?" Clarence nodded. "For now." Carver stepped outside again, more cautious this time. "You all right?" Clarence gave a slight smile. "Better than he is." The kid leaned against the wall. "What now?" Clarence looked up at the stars. "Now we wait." Carver looked at him, confused. "For what?" Clarence's voice came low. "For them to come back. Because men like that don't lose quietly." The kid shook his head. "I don't get it. Why here? Why now?" Clarence looked at him carefully. "Because this is where they feel most in control. And tonight, we broke that." Carver sat on a milk crate, eyes distant. "You ever get tired of it?" Clarence raised an eyebrow. "Of what?" "Fighting. Standing up. Always being the one who has to draw the line." Clarence nodded slowly. "Every damn day?" The kid smiled, almost sadly. "So why keep doing it?" Clarence looked at him. "Because I remember what it felt like when nobody else did." Carver sat quiet for a while, then said, "You think they'll come back tomorrow?" Clarence stood. "Not tomorrow, but they'll be back, with cleaner words, softer tactics, but the same poison." Carver swallowed hard. "You gonna be here?" Clarence met his eyes. "Every Friday. Same booth." Carver nodded. "Guess I'll be on the floor then." Clarence turned toward the kitchen door. "And next time someone tells you not to speak up?" Carver replied without hesitation. "I'll say it louder." Clarence smiled. "Then maybe you're braver than most." Inside, the restaurant buzzed on. Dishes clinked. Music played. Nobody knew what happened in the alley, but Clarence did. And so did Carver. And that meant something. In a world full of noise, it meant everything. Clarence stepped through the back door like a man crossing into enemy lines. Not sneaking, not ducking. Just walking, steady, quiet, fully aware that every eye might be waiting. The restaurant hadn't changed. Tables full, music low, laughter on tap. But something in the room had shifted. People felt it, whether they admitted it or not. He passed the bar. The same bartender glanced up, then quickly looked away. The act itself was the message. Clarence didn't need hostility to know he wasn't welcome. Indifference spoke louder. It said, "I saw what happened, and I'm choosing not to see it again." That, to Clarence, was worse than hate. His booth was still empty. Tea sweating on the table. A fresh napkin folded too neat, like a peace offering. He slid into the seat like it was a throne earned through endurance, and waited. Not for food, for recognition. For someone, anyone, to do more than pretend nothing had happened. That someone turned out to be Travis. The manager came out from the back, not hurried, not casual, cautious, like a man measuring his steps against what little authority he still had. He approached the booth, smile tight, clipboard in hand. "Mr. Darnell," he started. "I just wanted to check in personally and apologize for the earlier delay." Clarence didn't speak, just stared. Travis cleared his throat. There was a bit of miscommunication in the kitchen. The waiter he did exactly what needed doing. Clarence interrupted, voice like stone. Travis blinked. "Sorry?" Clarence leaned forward. "He warned me. That matters more than any steak or sweet tea you're trying to smooth over." Travis nodded slowly. Of course. And we value your loyalty. Always have." Clarence's gaze narrowed. "No, you valued silence. Mine. His. Everyone's." Travis's smile twitched. "This is a family restaurant. We try to avoid conflict." Clarence's voice dropped. "You avoided responsibility. That's not the same thing." There was a pause, just long enough to sting. Travis shifted, tried to redirect. "Look, your meal tonight's on the house." "No charge." Clarence didn't move. "Did you comp Logan's last steak?" Travis stiffened. "I thought so." Clarence leaned back. "Buying my silence won't work. Not tonight." The air between them turned cold. Travis stood straighter. "With all due respect, we've got a business to run. And if we start choosing sides based on one man's complaint," Clarence cut in, sharp. "This isn't about sides. This is about dignity." Travis swallowed. "You think that's what this is?" Clarence's voice came calm. "I know that's what this is." Before Travis could respond, the kitchen door swung open. Carver stepped out, tray in hand, face calm but eyes wary. He walked straight toward Clarence's booth and set the plate down gently. Steak, fries, greens. Perfect. Carver looked at Clarence. "Apologies for the wait, sir." Clarence nodded once. "None needed." He looked up at Travis. "You can go now." Travis hesitated. But Clarence's stare didn't blink. Eventually, the manager turned and walked away, slower than before. Not defeated, just unsure. Clarence picked up his fork, cut into the steak. Juices ran like truth, and then he ate. Not fast, not to finish, just to claim what was his. As Clarence chewed, the sounds of the restaurant faded, not in volume, but in meaning. He wasn't listening to conversation. He was listening to tension, where it lived, where it hovered. That's a skill you don't unlearn. You just hear the room differently, like a battlefield without bullets. A couple of tables over, a man stared too long. Another whispered. Clarence ignored it. The real moment was coming, and he could feel it in his bones. That shift, when silence can't carry the weight anymore, when a man either leaves or speaks. Clarence wasn't leaving. He finished the steak, set his fork down with finality, then stood. He didn't raise his voice, didn't tap a glass, just walked, slow, deliberate, toward the front counter. The room responded like it always does when a quiet man stands up. Heads turned, conversation softened. The air leaned in. Travis looked up from the register, eyes wide. "Everything okay?" Clarence nodded. "Meal was good." Then, louder, "But I'm not leaving without saying what needs saying." Travis stepped forward quickly, lowering his voice. "We can talk in the office." Clarence shook his head. "We're talking right here." More heads turned. The bartender stopped wiping glasses. The cook's voice trailed off in the kitchen. Clarence didn't raise his volume. He didn't have to. "I've eaten at this place for 6 years, sat at the same booth, ordered the same meal. Never once made a scene." He paused. "Until tonight." Travis looked uncomfortable. "Mr. Darnell." "No," Clarence said. "You listen now." He turned, gesturing toward the room. "Every Friday, this place hosts men who treat it like a clubhouse, who stare at customers, who whisper things they wouldn't dare say loud. And you let it happen." A murmur rippled through the room. Clarence continued. "You think silence keeps the peace. It doesn't. It just lets the wrong people feel powerful. And tonight, that ends." Travis's mouth opened, but no words came. Clarence looked at him. You run your daddy's steakhouse. Start acting like it means something. He turned and started walking back. Carver stood frozen near the dish station, eyes wide. Clarence passed him and gave a nod. Just enough to say you're not alone. Then he returned to his booth, dropped a 50 on the table, and placed his cap back on his head. He didn't look for applause, didn't wait for anyone to speak. But he saw it in the older man near the bar who raised his glass, in the busboy who nodded slightly, in Carver's face as he stood a little taller. The kind of respect that isn't asked for. It's earned. Outside, the night had cooled, but Clarence felt warm. Not from anger, from knowing that for once, silence didn't win. And maybe, just maybe, someone else would speak next time. Clarence sat behind the wheel of his truck, engine off, fingers loose against the steering wheel. The lights from Jean's Roadhouse spilled onto the pavement like a second sunset. From this angle, he could still see through the windows, Carver moving behind the counter, a couple laughing at their booth, the rhythm of normal life resuming. But inside Clarence, the rhythm hadn't returned. He wasn't angry. He was tired, bone-deep tired. Not the kind a nap could fix. The kind that came from years of carrying battles in silence. The kind that came from remembering every time a room told you to shrink and every time you chose not to. A truck pulled into the lot fast. Dusty, familiar. The Dodge from earlier. The one Logan drove. Clarence's spine straightened before he even looked. He stepped out of his vehicle slowly, not rushing. Just standing like a man who refused to flinch before he had to. 3 doors open. Logan's boys hit the pavement before the engine stopped humming. Logan climbed out last. Adjusted his belt like he meant to deliver a lesson. He didn't see Clarence at first, too focused on the restaurant doors. Then he froze. Clarence stood under the streetlight, arms at his side. You forget your leftovers? Clarence asked, voice casual. Logan turned slowly. His expression shifted. Not fear, but something close. Surprise. Uncertainty. That dangerous in-between. Didn't expect you to still be here, he muttered. Funny, Clarence replied. I figured you'd already run. Logan's jaw tightened. His boys flanked him, postured strong. Clarence didn't back up. He walked forward instead, slow and steady, boots crunching gravel like the sound mattered. I told you, he said. You picked the wrong old man. Logan smirked, but it cracked halfway through. You made your little speech, he said. What now? You think you scared me? Clarence stopped 5 feet away. No, I don't think you scare easy. I think you act like you do when your power gets questioned. One of the younger men stepped forward. Big arms, close shave, nervous hands. Clarence clocked it all. You really want to do this here? Clarence asked him. In front of a restaurant full of witnesses? Cameras? Staff? The man hesitated. Clarence turned back to Logan. Your whole act, it only works when no one's looking, when people keep quiet. Logan's mouth tightened. He didn't have a retort ready. You come back here to teach me a lesson? Clarence asked. Or scare that kid inside. Or maybe you just can't handle the fact that you don't run this place anymore. Logan took a step forward. You gonna stop me? Clarence didn't move. Already did. You just haven't accepted it yet. The wind stirred between them. Gravel shifted under tension. Logan's buddies looked for a cue, but Logan didn't give one. He was calculating, not scared, not bold. Caught in a place where the bluff had been called and there was no backup hand. Clarence stepped closer. Walk away, he said. Take your boys and go. Or find out what happens when quiet men stop being quiet. Logan stared. Something changed behind his eyes. Maybe doubt. Maybe realization. He turned to his crew. Let's go, he muttered. They hesitated. Now. Boots turned. Doors slammed. Tires spit gravel as the truck peeled out. Clarence didn't move until the taillights disappeared into the dark. Then he exhaled. Quiet. Firm. Done. For now. Clarence stepped back inside Jean's Roadhouse like he never left. The air was thicker now, not with smoke, with possibility. At a booth near the window, Carver was refilling a glass. He saw Clarence and gave a nod. Not a big one, just enough to say, "Still here?" Clarence took his seat. No food this time, just presence. A man reclaiming space. Across the room, Travis stood behind the counter, clipboard forgotten. Their eyes met. Travis started walking over. No speech, no smile. Just the weight of someone who'd seen the line drawn and knew which side he'd stood on. "You didn't have to make a scene," Travis said softly. Clarence nodded. "Didn't want to, but I'm done eating quiet." Travis looked tired. "You think this'll fix anything?" Clarence leaned in. "It already has." Travis looked toward the kitchen. "He'll come back. Men like him don't let things go." Clarence replied, "Then make sure when he does, you're ready." Travis exhaled. "It's not that simple." Clarence shrugged. "Sure it is. You either let this place belong to everyone or just to men like him. There's no middle." Travis didn't argue. That, more than anything, said he understood. Behind him, Carver approached. "Everything all right?" he asked. Clarence gave a small smile. "It's getting there." Carver hesitated. "Manager talked to me. Told me I should be more careful with what I say. Suggested I misunderstood." Clarence raised an eyebrow. "Did you?" Carver's voice was steady. "Not even a little." Clarence nodded. "Then let him be nervous. That's how things change." Carver smiled, faint but real. "Guess that makes me dangerous now." Clarence's voice was calm. "Good. Stay that way." Carver turned, walked off, but not hunched. Upright, like a man who just realized his spine was built for standing. Clarence stood too. He didn't need more food. What he needed was clarity. What he got instead was peace, not loud, not complete, but real. On the way out, he paused by the front window. A new sign had been taped there. "Respect is served here." Simple, honest. Enough. He walked out into the night, sat behind the wheel of his truck. The air was still. No storm, no shouting. Just the hum of something shifting. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. He answered. "Mr. Darnell?" a voice asked. "Yeah, it's Carver. Just wanted to say thanks. And they didn't come back tonight." Clarence smiled once. "That's a start." He hung up, started the engine. The old Ford rumbled back to life, same as always. Clarence didn't look back at the building as he pulled out. He didn't have to. The place had changed. Maybe not forever, maybe not fast, but enough. And sometimes, enough is all a man needs.